And I learned. And as I sat there after a few days, it really came to me, it occurred to me that you're really helping people through this. To put on your inspecting hat once you're in the property and get out of the listing mode is so important. And when you come to a Whole Hog Cafe, we'll talk about some tools that you'll bring that will help support you when you're wearing your listing hat to collect that data. I will tell you that probably 20 to 25% of the decks that we inspect in northwestern Arkansas are structurally problematic. But those are the things and those are the clues and the type of information that as a prospective buyer, you can take an extra 15 minutes in a house and you can be so much more prepared to make your offer because you already know what the hot spots are going to be.
Welcome back to another episode of REI NWA Podcast. I'm your host, Coley Bailey, Principal Broker at Lone Rock Realty, and this is going to be episode number 44, where we're going to be talking about inspecting like a pro. It's always really important to get your properties inspected before you fully close on them to know what you're getting into. And the expert with me today is Micheal Thompson.
Hello, Coley.
Hey, man.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, with Marathon Property Inspections.
Correct.
You guys do residential and commercial.
Absolutely.
And we don't actually have a lot of commercial inspectors in this area, so it's good for our investors to know that.
And it's good for us, too.
Yeah, it's great for you.
Yeah.
Well, so before we dive into what people need to know when they're looking at properties and kind of pre-inspecting before they even throw that offer, let's talk a little bit about you, where you came from and how you got into the inspecting world.
My journey here was a bit unexpected. We've always been real estate investors. I had a regular career like everybody else. I spent, about 25 years in an industry just doing what you do, right? You work, you move up, you just move along. But what I found through all of that is I didn't really have the fulfillment that I wanted. So my wife and I made a decision that we were moving to Fayetteville, told my employer that, and I said, look, we're moving to Fayetteville, and I said, they'll like it or lump it. Well, they lumped it, so that was fine, right? And so we moved to Fayetteville. And
what brought you here, just out of curiosity?
Great question. My best friend actually lives in Cave Springs. He's been my best friend since 8th grade, so I've been down here several times. I grew up on Table Rock Lake, so I'm familiar with the area, right? Yep. And so we got down here. We still had our real estate investments, and we were going to keep doing that. And I saw an opportunity to go to an inspection class, and I thought, wow, what a great advantage that would be. Right? Because I can get, this was 2020, 2021, things were super competitive, right?
Yeah.
And I can get on site, I can do my own inspection, right? It's going to give us an advantage when it comes to making an offer, right? I won't have to write checks to inspectors for properties I don't buy, which nobody likes to do, right? Yeah, I mean, it's bittersweet, right? And so I went and I learned. And as I sat there after a few days, it really came to me, it occurred to me that you're really helping people through this, right?
Yeah.
And I went home and I said to my wife, I said, what, this is what I wanted to do for us, but I really think there's something more here for me, right? And she said, go for it, right? And so I did, right? And we launched officially in 2022. That was our first year. And the response was pretty good, I think, for the first year. I mean, every time the phone would ring, I was just so excited, right? Even more, I'm super excited now, but for different reasons. And then 2023, we grew like 245% in 2023.
Wow.
And then in 2024, we're already there. We're going to probably grow close to 250 or 300% just this year alone, right? What we've put together and the product that we have, there's a real appetite for it in the market because we're really changing how people approach their relationship with their home and helping them understand the story of their home. And it provides so much fulfillment to me and to my other inspectors, that it's really been something special and completely unexpected.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. Now, I also don't want to gloss over your journey as an investor because you have some amazing properties.
Thanks.
So tell us a little bit about what you got going on with.
I would share, we basically have two or three buckets, right? So we have a bucket of just single family residential, right? Which is pretty standard, right? The ones that you buy and they just sit and cook and everything's beautiful.
Yep.
We also have Airbnbs, here in northwestern Arkansas. We had some condos in the downtown, midtown Omaha area until just about 2 months ago that we sold. And then we also have a retreat out in northwestern Arkansas, out in the Eureka Spring area that we are really doubling and tripling down on because
it's a unique concept.
It is. And
how do you describe that property? Is it a tree house?
It's a retreat.
Okay.
It's an opportunity to unplug from everything, but do it with luxury. And at the same time, we have lots and lots of acres out there. So there's a trail system that I've made. You can ride bikes on it, you can hike on it. There are valleys, there are mountains, and then we're adding some other aspects to it that really embody that luxury approach. It's more than just having fancy sheets. It's about having a campus feel. And think about when you go to a resort. Right, it's almost it's a little bit of that, but we're not using the word resort purposely. We're using the word retreat. Because it's an opportunity for people to get away. And we draw. We have a super high occupancy, and we're already drawing people from about a 5-hour radius already, and we're adding 3 more units out there with different each having a little special sauce on it. So stay tuned. It's Foxwood, Arkansas.
Okay.
That's where you can find us online.
Foxwood, Arkansas.
That's our handle.
Cool. I had to get that in there for you because
I appreciate that.
Because I've seen photos and and I really actually want to. Don't tell my wife, but I would like to surprise her with that.
I might know
she
a
doesn't
guy.
watch the podcast. So.
I might know a guy.
So let's talk a little bit about before people make the offer. Mm-hmm. Okay. Just quickly being able to assess items, especially things that are very costly.
Sure.
Give us a little insight into that.
Well, the first thing that I recommend, right, is we're going to come back to this. You need to have a good relationship with a professional from an inspection perspective, whether it's us or others. There are other guys out there that are really great. And before you get to that point, however, when you're in the offer stage, everybody goes through that moment where you're looking at listings, right? Or someone sends you an address and you have, it's like eye candy, right? And your eyes just pour all over it, right? What you have to be able to do is you have to be able to separate kind of your listing glasses, right? Mm-hmm. Or your listing hat from your inspection hat.
Okay.
And, understanding a few key items when you go out to the property that are generally items that can drive cost up pretty quickly, right? Or you could have cost down the road, helps you position, number one, your offer more effectively because you know exactly the condition of these systems. But also, number two, I think it helps you move more quickly and be more nimble as an investor as well, too.
Like, I'm assuming the roof is one of those things that you really want to look at.
Well, the roof is for sure.
Yeah.
And that's actually, there are some items that we won't talk about today because at Whole Hog Cafe, when you join us at Whole Hog Cafe, you can get the rest of our secrets. But let's talk about the difference between what type of hat you wear, right? There's your listing hat and your inspection hat. So your listing hat, think about this. You're buying a house for the first time. You see the pictures online, and then you show up at the house and you're with your significant other, right? And maybe your kids and your agents there, and you're walking around and you're looking at the house and you're like, oh my gosh, this is where Johnny's room is going to go. And look at all the space in the backyard and all the kitchen's amazing, right? And all this stuff, right? And that's your listing hat. And that's an okay hat to have. If you're going to look at it like a pro, you also have to back out of that and say, okay, now I need to put on my inspection hat. Mm-hmm. And what that means is your significant other and the kids go sit in the car, or they don't join, or they go in another room. You ask your agent to give you some time, right? And what you do is you step back out of the house, and then you come into the house and you look at the systems. Right? We're looking at the house with a critical eye, not with the I'm going to live here eye. Mm-hmm. And what you're looking for is, you're looking for, damage. You're looking for, issues. You're opening. You're looking underneath sinks, right? You're looking for the items that you feel like are going to, number one, cost you money, right? Number two, impact your tenant satisfaction, right? Because that's a big thing that we also share. Is understanding the items that affect tenant satisfaction or can cause you potential legal concerns, right? Because maybe the deck's rickety, different things like that.
Right.
So taking the time to do that is very important because you get a very limited window inside a property when you look at it.
Yeah.
And how many times, I couldn't even tell you myself, there have been many times that I've spent time in a property and I have walked out and the next day I'm like, boy, I didn't look at that. Because I get so caught up in the moment, right? And then you go back online and you're looking at the listing and you're trying to zoom in on the water heater, right?
Yeah.
To get that information, right? So this is really your time. And so setting some time aside to put on your inspecting hat once you're in the property and get off get out of the listing mode is so important. And when you come to a Whole Hog Cafe, we'll talk about some tools that you'll bring that will help support you when you're wearing your listing hat to collect that data.
Okay. And then you said this phrase one time, it's called listen to your feet. What does that mean?
That's a great question.
My feet don't say very much.
Well,
to me.
Sometimes there's that expression, your dogs are barking, right?
Okay.
And when you're walking through a house, almost everybody can think of a time that you walked through a house and as you were walking down the hall, you thought, well, this floor feels weird, right? It feels like it slopes, it feels uneven, it feels, it's crunchy,
squishy,
crunchy, pick your adjective, right?
Yep.
And when you have your inspecting hat on, if you walk through a house and really and it's silent, we've already established that it's silent, right? And really listen to your body and listen to how your body responds. What you'll find is your feet will tell you things about the house. Like in anywhere that there's a water fixture, we take extra time just to step around those areas because that can help you understand if there are water leaks, right? And if something's squishy or the floor feels soft, it didn't just happen last week, right? It's probably been an ongoing issue, right? Walking down halls or walking, across living rooms, especially on a home that has a crawl space, can be tremendously important because it can give you clues or indication as to what might be going on down below. Right. It's not always a foundation crack that creates a concern. Sometimes there can be concerns with your piers, the piers that they use to support the structure underneath. And then probably the biggest thing I would share, if you can comfortably get up on a roof, I don't know if as an agent you advise people to get up on a roof, but
probably not.
Probably not. You're like, why has he got his ladder out? But walking on decks and stairs, I will tell you that probably 20 to 25% of the decks that we inspect in northwestern Arkansas are structurally problematic, right? There's a lot of deck construction that happens outside of the purview of city officials, right? And there are many decks which are I like to refer to them as they're 12-pack decks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Which means you call your buddy and he brings a 12-pack and you build a deck.
Yep.
Right? Which there's some value in that, but if you're, for example, in Bella Vista and you're 15 feet off the ground and you're going to have a big party to celebrate your housewarming, you don't want to be a sad video clip, right? So taking the time to use your feet to walk those areas and determine, do you feel movement? Do you feel loose boards? Do you feel rotted boards? Your deck should not move. You shouldn't feel anything on it. And a lot of times, if there's a flight of stairs that's that is a story or a story and a half long, you're going to feel a sway on that. Yeah. And if it's not properly attached to the structure.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of decks.
Yeah.
With a lot of problems in my years just walking with customers. It's it's from not being attached to the house correctly, not being able to drain at the house, and like water problems coming back into the house from a deck, to the piers, not having footings, things like that. Yeah. I mean, people don't realize it, but we have a soil type that expands and shrinks, and there's a lot of movement just in the ground every year through the seasons. And so if it's not anchored in the way it's supposed to, it's going to move. You're
1,000% right, right? And when you add in mitigating factors like improper water mitigation around your structure, right, which is extremely common. 80% of the homes we look at have improper water mitigation strategies. And so now you have all this water that's running around the footings of your deck, right? Or running around the supports of your deck, or creating backfill of like dirt and mud around wood areas of your deck that shouldn't be exposed to that, which is causing those to degrade. It happens sometimes, but when I have clients that show up for an inspection and there's a deck, I have to physically walk inside and ask them to not walk on the deck because it's not a safe structure, which is tough, a tough message to deliver, but it's the right message to deliver. And because once again, if you have your inspector glasses on and you walk out on the deck yourself, you're going to be able to say, well, I feel something here. Right. Yeah. And that's going to give you an advantage in the offer process.
Yeah. You have one more tip?
I do have another one. This one's a little controversial. Find the spiders.
Find the spiders.
Find the spiders. Right.
Okay.
So
what does that mean?
Where do you think spiders live?
Hopefully not in every corner of the living part.
Yeah. Well, they kind of top to bottom, right?
Yeah.
So a couple things, right? So spiders appear where there is something for them to eat.
Okay.
Right? If there isn't any food, there generally aren't any spiders, right? So if you see spiders inside the house, that can be an indication that you may have some type of pest intrusion somewhere inside the house,
Okay.
right? And most importantly, I also recommend find the spiders in your crawl space. So wherever that crawl space is, right? Take the hatch off, bring a screwdriver. I don't know, you tell me. I mean, if I show up as your client and I have a screwdriver and I take the crawl space
I would
hatch
understand
off,
it if you were
well,
the
if it wasn't me, but you might be like, I don't know what this guy's doing, but I'm going to roll with it.
No, but
don't crawl in, but bring a flashlight.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Don't crawl in, but bring a really powerful flashlight, because when you look for the spiders, for example, in your crawl space, you're going to see the piers, which are like the columns that, like in northwestern Arkansas, I could write a book about all the different types of piers that I see and the solutions that. Oh my gosh! It's almost.
I've seen some really bad ones.
Man, I have a 1,000-yard stare in the crawl space. Right, I'm like, oh my gosh. So there's that, but you're also looking for moisture damage, right? Places where spiders live. You're also going to be able to see so much down in the crawl space because moisture, 1,000 different things. But you have to take the time to look. The other area that you want to go to is the attic. Pull down those attic stairs. You have that really powerful flashlight already, and just go up and shine your flashlight in the attic. You'll find creatures up there too. But you'll also find other things in the attic. You know how you determine if you have a water leak in the attic? It's a really complex thing. Do you know how to do that?
To find a water leak?
Yeah, in the attic.
You just look for water spots.
And that's it. That's it, right? You shine your flashlight and like, oh, I think that's dark, right? That's it. That's it. It's not hard, right? But those are the things, and those are the clues and the type of information that, as a prospective buyer, you can take an extra 15 minutes in a house, and you could be so much more prepared to make your offer because you already know what the hot spots are going to be, and you can already get those professionals out and get ahead of everybody because you're going to make those calls to have someone come look at the house or ask them questions about the picture you took as well too. All things that are tremendously important in making sure that you're able to make the most competitive offer.
Those are some good tips.
Thanks.
Those are some really good tips. Obviously, we could keep talking about this for a long time, but that's why we have the program.
For sure.
Again, this is going to be at the Whole Hog Cafe in Fayetteville on August 22nd. This is a rookie nook for all you rookies out there, or, like all of us that show up to all of the meetings.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But good tips all around. It'll be at 5:30. We'll probably get started at 6. Always love the Whole Hog.
It's a great vibe. It's a great dynamic. There's great networking, right? And there's one of the great things about REI NWA is there's an opportunity to just really connect with other professionals and people that have been there and have done that, and they're so willing to share their perspective. Right. And because that's just part of that's our community. That's who we are.
Yep. Fantastic. All right, guys. Well, we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.